Washington. I guess they got
Really?
they don't know popping. You know, over there.
Gotta watch them guys.
Hmm?
Gotta watch them.
Morning, everyone. I'd start off with an April Fool's joke, but, you know,
You are.
but I want to welcome everybody to the County Facilities Committee meeting for April 1st. First of all, I'd like to open, I want to thank our IT department for coming out with our new Chromebooks. So we're all set up with Chromebooks, so everybody knows it's out there and at home. So you're going to see a lot of faces up there, and everybody should be connected. But I want to thank the whole department. They're here in full force. They were a little late this morning, just taking some of the bugs out of it and getting us all going. But it's kind of nice that we all have something at our desk to see our lovely faces. All right. So first of all, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I'm looking for the approval for our prior committee meeting minutes. Supervisor Bruno,
I'll make that motion.
and who was that?
John Stroud?
And thank you, Supervisor Stroud. All right, can I call a vote? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, so moved. So this morning we have a few things on the agenda. And really the main thing is the new contract for the solar land lease. And I'm going to let Kevin Hajos take over that, because he and Craig, Supervisor Leggett, Supervisor Wild, Supervisor Stroud, and Superintendent Hajo has been working very hard with our group and got it narrowed down to 3. And now we're here to make a decision. So I'm going to let our Superintendent Hajos take that over. So thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So as Chairman McGowan had said, our first request is to enter in a new contract for a solar land lease at the airport. As you all know, we put out a proposal for either a solar land lease or some other type of land use at the airport. We didn't receive any other types of land use. We only received solar land uses from 8 different proposers. Of those 8 proposers, we had narrowed it down to the top 3. At that point, we had some questions for those 3 proposers. I received the questions from Supervisor Leggett, Supervisor Stroud, and Wild. I passed those questions on to the 3 different companies. They came back and answered the questions. Then we sat down and had a meeting with each one of those companies. More questions were asked. A lot of what was told to us in those meetings is the incentives that they're receiving through NYSERDA and the interconnection costs and such with National Grid. It was on a very fine timeline. As I said at the last committee meeting, most of those NYSERDA incentives that they're receiving are filling up fast, and when they fill up, they go to the next block of incentives. And with those incentives, there's less money in those incentives. Not saying something may change with the package that was just put out by the federal government, but the fact of the matter is right now is they opened up block 16 or 17 in January. And as of right now, it's probably halfway to 2/3 of the way full. They expect by June, at the latest July, that this block of incentives will be closed. And they'll go to the next block down, which would be block 18, which would be less money for them to receive. So I would like to, just kind of talk about the land lease, and you see it in the contract here, is the proposed company that the negotiating team had chosen was Nextam. You can see on there that they have, as part of the contract, say an option term lease that should commence upon execution of the agreement. That option term lease was for $170 a month, not to exceed 3 years. That was to give them the ability to be able to construct this project, do all their permitting, get all their funding and such in place. I don't think it's more funding, more they're just getting their permitting and their construction contracts and plans in place. Most companies that had proposed, especially these top three, said anywhere within 12 to 18 months, they would have it constructed. So this was what we had in the RFP was for 36 months, but I believe most of that, the next AMP, I believe, was somewhere between 12 and 18 months. I'm not sure the exact time frame. So within 18 months of us approving the contract, they would have the site built and be ready to turn it on and move forward with it. You'll see here that it would be for a 25-year lease. The per acre fee for each site, site one, which would be the north site, is $3,765 per acre. And the site two, which is a southern one closer to the substation, would be $4,607 per acre. The acre amounts, I believe I have it right here in front of me. Actually, I don't. Yes, I do. The total acres that they're using on site one, the northern, is about 28 acres of the 39 or so that we had. And then site two, they're using 22 of the 49 acres. They're proposing a 6.5 megawatt system for each one of those sites. What else can I tell you about they have some interconnection costs that they need to bear for signing in with National Grid. They can't necessarily move forward with National Grid, Phil, and I believe Supervisor Leggett, Stroud, and Wild can attest to this. They at least need to get a verbal from us so they can be able to move forward with National Grid. They had included the decommissioning bond for approximately $290,000, which would mean at the end of the project, if they were not to extend to us, they would remove everything on there. If not, $290,000 would come to the county for us to basically remove all the material off. They also have in the lease an extension of 5 years beyond the original 25, and that was part of the RFP. There's a 2% annual escalator every year. So, the 3,765, 4607 per acre, that'll increase 2% every year for the 25 years that they're here. I will say that they did use some assumptions. There's that 47 real property tax, which is whether or not they'll pay taxes on the site or they'll do a payment in lieu of taxes. They assumed 5,000 per megawatt, which is basically what NYSERDA has given them for a number. So, somewhere between a $35,000 to $40,000 range to pay in taxes on the property. I'm not sure what else I can add. As I said, next AMP, based on, the negotiations and again, I will let Supervisor Leggett, Wild, and Stroud talk to it. They had the best proposal. But again, there was a caveat with every single one of these companies that said that if they don't get into a certain block, their numbers could change. So that was a reason for having the special committee and trying to move this forward. So that's the first resolution.
Thank you, Kevin. And again, thank you, Supervisors Wild, Stroud, and Leggett for really taking the extra time out of your busy schedules to see this through. So is there any questions from anybody on the committee that, well, I guess Kevin's got a question.
Not necessarily a question. I wanted to add on, which I didn't. I'm looking down through my sheet. So the combined lease revenue, say for the first year, would be approximately $206,838 for this first year. For a total over 25 years, the county, if all the incentives and everything is placed, the county will receive approximately $6.6 million for this lease as revenue coming into the airport.
That was a good question you had there, Kevin. I thank you for adding that in the end, because that's actually some really nice numbers. And like I said, it helps offset our county costs for the airport, for land that's just sitting there. I felt from the beginning it's a good move. And again, thank you all for all the work. So does anybody have any questions? Supervisor Bruno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I may have missed it in some of the information we got, but what is the basis for determining these amounts per acre?
I'll let Kevin handle that.
Yeah, and It was, the proposal basically said we wanted a per acre price from them. They said they normally don't do it that way, but we wanted to make this the simple, as simple lease as possible. We didn't want to go into power sharing agreements or anything. We just wanted a simple lease per acre. They actually, within the proposals, they actually did a per acre price for each one of the sites, but they also did it as a lease rate per megawatt. That's how they typically do it. So they took their megawatt number that they normally use, which I think it was 16,000 per megawatt on one site, 15,500 on the other site. Then they just broke it down to that per acre price. But it's just a number that we wanted. Here's the property you're going to use. What would be the per acre amount you would want to give us? And again, they were the higher of the ratings of each of the companies.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, you're welcome. Anybody else? Anybody on Zoom? Supervisor Straub.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Chairman McGowan. Yeah, well, we picked the final three, and like Kevin said, we really tasked them to make sure that the offer they were giving us was pretty close to being as solid as you humanly can make it. There are still unknowns. And but what's required to get this whole process going in terms of allowing them to get established in that Block 17 and allowing them to start negotiating with National Grid to see what interconnection costs are going to be is a letter of intent from us. And we're not binding ourselves to anything. It's not the final vote on this. It's the beginning vote. So the final three, we made sure that they incorporated into their figures as much as humanly possible what they estimate to be the pilot program, what they estimate to be interconnection costs, what they estimate to get out of Block 17, and get something that was going to be pretty close. And so comparing the top three, Nextamp was by far the better proposal in terms of what we expect to receive monetarily. So I just want to make that point. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Supervisor Straub. Supervisor Beatty.
Thank you, Brad. One of my goals for the last 6-7 years has been to decrease the amount the county funds for the airport. 7 years ago, we were spending nearly $1 million a year in support of the county airport. Through a lot of hard work, a lot of due diligence, getting the $13 million boondoggle runway expansion next, which was a huge win for the taxpayers. This is just another step in reducing the costs of the airport from the county standpoint. We renegotiated the FBO, which is the fixed base operator lease, about 2-3 years ago. We went from 7 cents a gallon to 21 cents a gallon, which is almost unheard of. At that time, Don DeGraw, who was the airport manager, said he didn't know of any other ones in the country that were able to get that amount per gallon. And the reason why that's important is that's the biggest revenue driver for the county, is how much we get the cut per gallon. So I totally applaud this. The basic work started last year when I was chairman, and Chairman McGowan's picked it up and ran with it. So as much as we can decrease the funding from the taxpayer standpoint of making this county airport a winner, I'm 100% for it. So thank you, Chairman.
Well, thank you, Supervisor Beatty. Anybody else have any questions? Oh, that's Supervisor Diamond.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a couple of questions. Maybe Mary can answer these questions. One question I have is there any risk or liability to the county if in fact this company doesn't keep their commitment and pay their property tax and school tax? Is there any liability that falls back to us as the property owners that we become responsible for what they don't pay in taxes?
I mean, they'd be paying taxes to the county, so we would lose out on whatever the taxes that they're paying. We also may then become responsible for whatever equipment is there if we decide to take that property back. I believe that we're putting a clause in the contract that says, if something happens or we terminate, it's their responsibility to take all that equipment away. Doesn't mean it happens, but it's gonna be in there.
Do they have an option to, say, for example, they look at the property's value after it's been revalued? Do they have an option or a right to challenge that assessment?
Yeah, every property owner does. I mean, I think that the county owns the property though, so I
Right,
think the
yeah.
county would have to take on that
Oh, the county
action.
would, not them. Okay,
Right.
okay, thank you.
We good?
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Supervisor Diamond. Oh, Supervisor Shepherd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you tell me what the acreage is involved here, please?
22 for the south site and, I'm sorry, the north site, and then 28 for the south site.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions? Okay, so it looks like we're ready to call a vote, so I will call a vote for the new contract for the solar land lease.
For-
You need a
Pardon?
motion
Need a motion.
Oh,
for a motion?
well, thanks, Amanda.
McGowan, I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion from Mike Wild. You got a second from Dan Bruno. So I'll call the vote. All in favor of new solar land lease? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so moved.
I abstain.
Oh, and we have one abstention from Supervisor Sepler. All right, the next one, we have a request to set a public hearing. This is for the solar land lease at the airport property. Kevin, you,
Yeah, I'll let Mary talk into the particulars about it, but this is to set a public hearing such that we can enter into the land lease with Nexamp Solar. And I'll let Mary add on to that.
Mary?
Yep, sure. So under General Municipal Law, Section 352, for any lease at the airport, you need a public hearing on 10 days' notice. So this will be the start of the notice, and you'll have the public hearing on April 16th. So that's more than 10 days' notice.
Thank you. All right, so set a public hearing. I need a motion.
I'll make that
Supervisor
motion,
Bruno?
Judge Stroud.
Supervisor Stroud. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So moved. Okay, we'll jump right on to number 3 to introduce the local law number 3 of 2021. This is dispensing requirements on the New York State General Municipal Law. Kevin is, or straight to Mary?
I'm going to actually turn that over to Mary.
All right, let's go straight to Mary on this one. Mary?
Yep, so again, under section 352 of the general municipal law, airports can enter into leases for up to 40 years. So we're obviously under that 40-year maximum. The only thing is that the lease has to be necessary for the efficient and proper operation of the landing field. So obviously a solar lease doesn't fit that definition. So we're just doing a local law which will allow us to use that land for purposes other than what is necessary and efficient for the proper operation of the landing field. So that would be the local law.
All right, thank you, Mary. So I'll need a motion to bring this to the floor.
I'll make that motion, Judge Stroud.
Supervisor Stroud, do I have a second? Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Supervisor Bruno. All right, so I'll call a vote.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
a question. I don't see the local law in our packet. So I'd like to kind of see and understand the details of exactly what we are dispensing with. Because my sense is there's more elements to this than just the lease. So I'm wondering if we can be more specific about this local law so that we don't dispense it. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, the resolution introducing local law number 3 is in your board folder. That was distributed to the board earlier in the week.
So could I have I'll change my request to my question, just an explanation of what are the other elements of that law, general municipal law, that will be set aside by this resolution.
I can read it. I have it right in front of me.
The only part of that local law that the only part of general municipal law that the local law is dispensing with is allowing us to use that airfield for things other than what is necessary for airport use. That's the only part of the local law we're changing. We're not changing the term of the lease. We're not changing anything else other than what we can use that land for.
If I may, Mr.
Please.
Chairman, should we be more specific with this and just basically state that the solar is part of this local law?
That's up to you guys. I mean, if you want to limit it to solar, then you should make it more specific. But if you want to be able to use the land for other purposes, then I would leave it broad.
I'm not sure if it's an issue, but when we dispense of the total subset of regulations related to the airport, it opens us up to other uses that we may not anticipate and have no ability to reject or consider. So my sense is with the committee's approval that we modify that local law. Maybe it has to go to the board, but we just do it just for solar.
Thank you, Supervisor. Well, I guess my question would be on that one is everything that goes on in that airport would have to go to the board. It's not like we're setting a precedent here. But I just want to make sure, what I guess I'm trying to say is that we could turn down anything we want, I believe, at the airport. Is that correct, Mary?
I'm
Kevin?
sorry, I didn't hear the question.
I was asking her a question. Sorry, Brad.
Excuse me, Ryan, don't interrupt me when I'm in the meeting. But, no, I guess my question is don't we make the decision what goes on there at the airport through this board? So can we, I mean, Mike's worried about consequences coming down, but don't we have the final decision of what goes on at that airport? Would we be setting a precedent to allow, anything else beyond solar or anything else that could be put on that land? It's just a question I'm trying to answer there for Supervisor Wild.
Yeah, so any lease that you would have at the airport is subject to a public hearing and is subject to a vote of this board. So you would have the final approval of anything that would go on at the airport.
I mean, the only reason I'm saying is down the line, there might be a thing where we have enough land where they could do a battery storage area to store up the power to put it back on. I've been reading that these are things of the up and coming of the future of storing the power for when the sun goes down and that and putting it back in the lounge. So that's all part of solar, but it's not actually solar. So, I don't want to close any doors that I feel, but I mean, that's just, just a question, really not my opinion. That'd be up to the committee here. So what is the sense of the committee of how you want to move forward on this? Would you like to change that or leave it as is?
I'm
Supervisor Stroud?
thank you, Chairman. I'm fine with leaving it open. I mean, I've got the General Municipal Law 352 right in front of me, paragraph 5, which talks about leasing, et cetera, having the public hearing, et cetera. I'm fine with leaving it open. Because any other, like Chairman McGowan pointed out, any other future enterprises that would want to use county property has to get our approval. So that's the safeguard.
All right, thank you Supervisor Stroud. Supervisor Bruno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Supervisor Stroh. I think that it's somewhat specific anyway, right? We're talking about solar. And, correct me if I'm wrong, how wide open is this? How, I don't think we're leaving ourselves that wide open. And additionally, as I said, any other uses are at the discretion of this board. So I'm okay with that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you. And also might want to add is that we all have to deal with the, laws of the FCC. The the what?
FAA.
The FAA, FCC, well, who's the FCC? Supervisor Leggett, you want to chime in here? You were on the A team there.
No, I think the supersedence that's before you is sufficient.
Okay, so, so if that's all right, Supervisor Wild, we'll move forward. So
Vote.
that we brought it to the floor, correct?
Yes.
Supervisor Stroud? All right, so I'll call a vote. All in favor of the local law number 3 of 2021, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so moved. Kevin, any discussion items?
No, I just want to make the committee aware that I did make the offer to a new airport manager who should be starting on the 26th of April.
All right, that's good news. I'm happy to hear that. Referrals for pending items seem to be empty, so we'll move on that. Mr. Lehman, do we have any comments out there in the wild world?
Good morning, Chairman McGowan. There is no comment on YouTube right now.
All right, so that takes care of that. So I'll make a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Oh, I can't make a motion. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Make that
Supervisor
motion.
Bruno, Supervisor Stroud. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Done. Thank you.
Now, they had sound problems. Whoops.